In this week's episode of A Dryad Dose of Disney, Jared shares with us the best times of year and the best days of the week to visit each theme park.
Welcome to this week's episode of A Dryer Dose of Disney. I'm your host, Jared Dryer, and today we are going to be talking to you about the best day of the week to go to each of the parks nationally. So we're going to go both West Coast and East Coast, and we're going to be talking to you today about which is the best day for each of the parks. When are you going to see the lowest crowds? That way you can maximize your day and the time in the parks and have the lowest wait times possible for each of those parks that you go to. Before we dive into that though, I do want to ask, wherever you're listening to this podcast, or if you're watching us on YouTube, go ahead and find that pause button and then click the subscribe button. So that way you can get this content delivered into your inbox each and every single week. We've had a few episodes over the last few weeks. We've got some more coming, including our 2 episodes around Epic Universe. So one for Rope Drop and one for our review of Epic Universe, as well as we're going to have another episode coming around Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run. And you're definitely going to want to tune into all of those. So by subscribing, you're going to get this content delivered into your inbox each and every single week. And then we also, in our links below, have a lot of different affiliates and programs down there, including our condo in Orlando that you can stay at. So you can stay where we stay, as well as Patreon. So if you find any tips or tricks that are helping save you time or money, we do ask for your support over at Patreon, and you can find the link down there at the bottom. But let's dive right into it. Let's talk through what are the best days of the week to go to each of the parks, and in fact, the best times of year to go to the parks as well. The question that I get asked a lot, and I get this both through Facebook and through some friends as well, is does it really matter what day of the week you go to the park? The answer is definitely yes, but keep in mind it's not as drastic as you think, but it can make a pretty good difference as well, depending on the time of year that you're going and, again, the day of the week that you go, because parks are definitely busier on certain days of the week. So I will say the time of the year makes a much larger impact than the day of the week. And we'll talk about that more later when we talk about our 2 I Can Do This All Day tips of the day at the end of this episode. But nonetheless, you can see a difference depending on what day of the week you go to each of the parks. So time of year, let's start there. The rule of thumb, obviously, is it's best to avoid when schools are on break. So especially around the holidays. So if you're going to go during the Christmas holiday, just know it is going to be completely blitzed. It's going to be very busy no matter what day you go. And so I want to put that out there so that you're not planning to go at that time of year, unless, of course, you're doing it for Christmas. If you're giving it as a Christmas gift for your family or something like that, then that's awesome. Go ahead and do that. But I'm saying if you want to go and have the lowest wait times and see the least crowds, that is the time of year I would absolutely avoid. Now, however, when you look through the rest of the year, there's a lot of different times that schools are on break. So I want to call some of these out. In Colorado, where we came from, and some other states, they always have a fall break in October. So the month of October is usually going to be a busier time than other times during the year. Of course, around Thanksgiving, that's going to be busy in November. In Louisiana here, they always take off the week around Mardi Gras. So you're going to find that to be a very busy time because people in Louisiana don't want to be in the city around Mardi Gras. So they're going to leave, and usually they go down to Orlando because it's so close. And so that's going to be a busy time. Of course, spring break. So anytime starting in, I'd say about mid-March through the end of April, that's going to be busy depending on when your schools take spring break. And know that nationally, schools are taking spring break for about 6 to 7 weeks during that time. So it could be any time during that period of time. And then, of course, any time that people have holidays. So President's Day, Martin Luther King Day, Veterans Day, Indigenous Peoples Day, or Columbus Day, those are all going to be very busy times. Now, a lot of people say they think summers are going to be busy because obviously kids are out for 2 to 3 months. And definitely in LA, summer is a factor, and it's going to be very busy during the summer in LA. However, down in Orlando, because it's so hot and so humid, a lot of people do try to avoid going to the parks during the summer because it's going to wear them out. It's way too hot down there. So if you don't mind sweating, summer's not a terrible time to go. In fact, we have done 4th of July weekend multiple times. And though, yes, you're going to see a huge crowd at Magic Kingdom for the fireworks on the 4th of July, earlier in the day, there's nobody in the park, and it seems to creep up as the day goes on. but that's a great day to go to the parks as well. So a lot of great opportunity there during the summer. So the best times of year to go to the parks, this comes up a lot. I like to say mid to late September. So you definitely want to avoid Labor Day and anything around that week or those first 2 weekends. But later in the month of September, that's going to be a great time to go. Early November before Veterans Day or before Thanksgiving is a great time to go. Early December, surprisingly, is one of the best times annually to go, mostly because so many people take vacation around Thanksgiving and so many people take vacation at the holidays that very few people take vacation during the first 2 weeks of December. So that, in fact, is one of the best times to go all year. And then January is a good time to go after Martin Luther King Day. So you want to let the New Year holiday go through. You want to let Martin Luther King go through. And then after that is a great time to go. And then early May, like I said earlier, so many people like to go during spring break. So in month of March going into April, but early May, usually schools are wrapping up towards the later part of May. So early May, usually everyone's in school for finals and stuff like that. So that is also a great time to go. But let's go ahead and dive into the best days of the week. So we're going to start out in LA, out on the West Coast. And in Los Angeles, I will tell you, it is very easy to decide which days of the week to go to the parks. And that's because almost every single person that goes out there to go to the parks starts their week. So Mondays and Tuesdays at the Disneyland Park or California Adventure. And then they plan to go to things like Universal Studios, Legoland, or SeaWorld later in the week. So if you want to go to Universal Studios Hollywood, I would tell you definitely you want to go early in the week, usually on Mondays and Tuesdays. And the reason is everyone's over at Disney. And then for Disneyland and California Adventure, I'm going to tell you later in the week, targeting Thursday is going to be your best day for Magic Kingdom because so many people go Monday and Tuesday. And then if they get the third day, they're going to go Wednesday. Thursday is going to be a great day. And then later in the week for California Adventure, like on Friday, is a great day to go there. Now, with all of our parks, I'm going to say you're going to see a lot more locals start to get into the parks and start to see those numbers drive up on the weekends because locals will get their annual pass and then obviously are working Monday through Friday, and then they can go on the weekends. Now, the nice thing about that, though, at the same time, is a lot of people traveling to the area travel on the weekends, meaning that if you're a local and you can get there on the weekends, you're usually going to see a lower crowd. Likewise, if you're traveling and you are traveling through a weekend, the debate over the number of locals versus early in the week, I would definitely bet on the weekend and go on the weekend than Monday or Tuesday, especially out in LA. Now let's hop over to Orlando because you have so many more parks here and it's going to be a lot more different over in Orlando. And we're going to do it park by park, but I'm going to go through and I'm going to start again on the Universal side. And we're going to start with Epic Universe. So the newest park out there, I'm going to say there's no good day of the week to go yet. And the reason is this park is completely sold out and at capacity every single day of the week, including the weekends right now. Now, fast forward maybe 6 to 9 months or once they allow it on the annual pass, and you're going to see that drastically change. And then we would hopefully update this episode at that point in time. But for today, there's really no good days yet because it's full park capacity. Now, early, since they opened in May, they opened on May 22nd, early in their life cycle. So right now at this time of year is a great time to go because obviously kids are getting back into school and not everybody's going to be maxing it out. And then at the same time, they've only been running 2/3 to 3/4 capacity while they're working through some of the kinks. Now, I will say when we were out there for the 2 days, the park worked almost flawlessly. We did see a couple of the rides go down for just a little bit of time, but they're working through that. So they are not running at their total 100% capacity yet. So it is still a good time to go, knowing that they're having generally lower levels of crowds at the park. Now let's go over to Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure. And if you've listened to our other episodes, we like to talk about these in pairs, mostly because a lot of people try to conquer both parks in a single day. So my advice is go early in the week. So usually targeting a Monday or Tuesday. And this is for the same reason that we talked about in California. So most people on their trips to Orlando are going to start their week with the Disney parks. That's the marquee park. That's what they're going for is for Disney. And the Universal parks are their follow-up parks, meaning they're going to usually spend Monday through Wednesday or Monday through Thursday at the Disney parks. And then they're going to go over to the Universal parks later in the week. So I will say early in the week for Universal, always on Mondays and Tuesdays is going to be your best bet. Now, recently, they did just start changing their hours at Universal. So keep an eye out on that as well. And you're also going to want to watch out for Halloween Horror Nights because that can mess things out. but their hours have now changed where they're allowing early park entry into Islands of Adventure. And at that same time, everyone can get into Universal Studios. I will say it's worth it if you have early park entry. You're going to want to do Islands of Adventure. If you don't, you're going to want to go to Universal Studios and get there early and go hit out that side over there. So that's our advice for you there. Now let's go to Disney parks. So rule of thumb, and this is if you think historically and your parents, you're talking whether it's your parents are boomers, Gen X, Gen Y, millennials, most people think through the Disney parks in the order that they were built. So they're thinking, I'm going to do Magic Kingdom first, Epcot second, Hollywood Studios third, and Animal Kingdom fourth. The only trade-offs I ever see in there is if people swap Hollywood Studios with Epcot, just because they're such big fans of Star Wars or maybe Pixar, and they want to get that a little bit earlier in the week. But what we see is the majority of people do Mondays at Magic Kingdom, Tuesdays at Epcot, Wednesdays at Hollywood Studios, and Thursdays at Animal Kingdom. So our advice for you is on Animal Kingdom, we're going to recommend that you go there Tuesday or Wednesday. You're going to want to get ahead of the crowd and you're going to want to do it earlier in the week. So if I was planning my week, I would start my week at Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure on Monday, and I would do Animal Kingdom on Tuesday. That's the way that I would start my week, and then I would work through the rest of this list just to get it in a reverse order. For Hollywood Studios, though, keep in mind, they're usually going to hit that on Wednesdays, right? So my best time of the week is to go Thursdays or Fridays. By doing it later in the week, you're going to see much, much lower crowds over there, and you're going to want to avoid that Wednesday at all costs. So this is going to be my lineup towards the end of the week. For Epcot, we have found later in the week works best, but you want to avoid the weekends at all costs. So this is something I would also do Thursday or Friday. So I'm going to be trying to balance that out. So whether I do Epcot on Thursday, Hollywood Studios on Friday, or flipping those, you're probably going to be in good shape, but you want to avoid the weekends at Epcot. And back to the fact of the annual pass holders going into the parks on the weekend, most annual pass holders in Orlando target Epcot on the weekends because of all the cool festivals that they do. So you're definitely going to want to try to avoid that one on the weekend. And I will say Magic Kingdom's a great one to go to on the weekend because so many people travel that on Sundays, that one's available. So for Magic Kingdom, my recommendation is sometime in the middle of the week, probably Wednesday, because we told you Universal and Islands of Adventure do on Monday, Tuesday do Animal Kingdom. I would do Wednesday at Magic Kingdom, and then Thursday and Friday between Epcot and Hollywood Studios. But I will also say pretty much Tuesday through Thursday, you're pretty safe over there. And then surprisingly, we have found Sundays to be a great day to go to Magic Kingdom if you're there and you have the full day available. So when we go on Sundays, we typically see lower crowds. This last time that we were there, we went on a Tuesday and it wasn't too bad. It was actually pretty low crowds on Tuesday as well. So targeting midweek at Magic Kingdom is going to be best. So that's how we like to map out our week. Now we have today for you 2 I Can Do This All Day tips of the day. And our first one we hinted at a little bit earlier in the episode. And that is that when you're going during the holiday time, specifically like the week of Thanksgiving or the week of Christmas or the week of New Year's, it doesn't matter what day you go to the park. At that point, all the parks are at full capacity every single day. So whether you go to a park on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday isn't going to matter at all. So at that point of the year, just basically throw this whole episode out. This episode doesn't even matter at all just because it's going to be so busy and so slammed there. I will say that at the times of spring break, so that's mid-March through the end of April, you're going to see a lot of the similar crowd levels, but the parks aren't necessarily sold out. So knowing that these days of the week could provide some relief for you if you do use this and follow this method that we like to use, but at the same time, it's going to still feel pretty busy. If you can get there, like we said at the beginning of the episode, late September, early December, early November, late January, or early May, you're going to see substantially less crowds anyway. So that's what we would say to target if you have that availability to get out of school. And then our biggest tip for the I Can Do This All Day tip of the day is you're going to want to look really closely at the calendar to see if there are any parties at the park. So whether it's Universal or Disney, especially around Halloween, they have Mickey's Not So Scary Party or Halloween Horror Nights. And when you look at those parks, I want you to check what hours that event is and you need the separate ticket for. And the reason I say that is with like Disney and Mickey's Not So Scary Party, they may have that going 3 or 4 days during the week, which means there's only one day during the normal Monday through Friday that Magic Kingdom is not going to have a party, which means that's the only day people can stay all the way till fireworks. And if you go on that day, know that it's a complete nightmare. It's an absolute chaos. I would say avoid it at all costs. And I know fireworks are really cool to see and you want to see that, but you want to avoid that day at all costs. So what I would recommend is you're going to want to go to Disneyland or Magic Kingdom on the days the parks are actually going to close early because the park attendance is absolutely at its lowest. But know that you're not going to get to stay and watch fireworks. So they're going to kick you out about 3 or 4 in the afternoon. But it's a trade-off because being kicked out early, though you're going to have fewer hours in the park and you're not going to get to see fireworks, your wait times are going to be 5 to 10 minutes for almost every single ride throughout the entire park that day. And you're going to be able to ride every single ride you want to do. So a little bit of a trade-off. Again, if you want to see the fireworks, then you're going to go on that one day that they don't have the party and you're going to be there at capacity where that park is an absolute madhouse and every single ride is going to have an hour plus wait. So we did it this last fall with my sister. We wanted to go on that one day so we could stay for the fireworks. And I'll tell you, by about 8 p.m., we'd ridden about 2/3 of the rides that we wanted to do. It was complete chaos there. It was so busy that we decided to leave the park and get out of there before the fireworks just because it was an absolute madhouse and there were so many people there. So I will say you're going to want to avoid the non-party days as much as you can because everyone else is doing the exact same thing. So with that, we wish you a magical week as you're planning your next vacation. Like I said, we've got some more episodes coming for you around Epic Universe, so you're going to want to tune into those. And we will talk to you guys next time. Bye-bye.